Hello and welcome to the Magical Midlife Podcast, where you get a refreshing, uplifting and optimistic perspective on life in your 40s and 50s. I'm your host, Lindsay DeSwart, and I'm delighted that you've joined us here today, so let's jump right in. Good morning, welcome to the Magical Midlife Show. It's Lindsay. How are you today? I'm so pleased that you're joining me. Thank you for that, because I know we're in the run-up to Christmas and it's all getting busy. And normally listening figures do go down at Christmas. So if you do actually have the time to listen to this and it's anywhere near Christmas, then I'm really grateful, because I understand there's a lot of pulls on everybody's time right now. So I'm sitting here with a cup of tea and I'm surrounded by notes of all the things that I want to talk about today. But actually what it comes down to, and funny enough, because I'm surrounded by notes, what it comes down to is today's podcast is all about freedom. And the funny thing is, what creates freedom is structure, which I know sounds kind of ridiculous. And you think about this life of freedom and, taking your laptop and being able to work from anywhere kind of is like a life of freedom. And that's obviously a phase of life for some people. It's not the phase of life I'm in at the moment. It's probably not the phase of life you're in at the moment, because we've created structures around us in order for us to lead our lives. But what's so funny is what happens when those structures become outdated and you kind of outgrow the structure that you created for yourself, because it really doesn't feel very freeing then. It feels like restrictive. So, for example, the situation I'm in right now, so you may know the story. I downsized, I moved country. It's just me and my daughter now rather than being a family of 5. And I got rid of so much stuff. We got rid of a ton of stuff when we moved out of the house. And that was the house that the kids grew up in. So you can imagine the garage fills up with sports equipment and stuff that, you've built and then been abandoned, and with creative children, all sorts of projects going on. And then, like a full-size goalpost and all the rest of it. We had so much stuff. And within that so much stuff, that's because we were living on a big property, and in theory that kind of made you feel free, and it did in many, many ways. And yet when it comes to when you outgrow that and you think, okay, so that stuff all becomes heavy, like a weight that stops you from maybe changing direction or changing country or moving to a new chapter in your life. And so you have to clear that sort of stuff out. And so what's so funny now is the place that I have in England is tiny in comparison. As I say, I've got rid of so much stuff, so many clothes, just a massive, massive clear out, which I wouldn't recommend necessarily as the first step to go on. However, it's had its advantages, and the advantages are, in order for me now to change direction, or for me to take on a new project, or to pursue the work that I love, the spiritual work that I love, it's really easy because my structure is so lean, unlike my midlife body, which I'm also working on. But the structure around me is so lean that it really provides a great sense of freedom. So what I mean by that is, and it's the 5 steps, which is the expand step, explore, energize, build your ecosystem, and then evolve, which I'll obviously put into context of where we sit with freedom. So let's say you want to take on a new project because you know you've got loads more time on your hands. Maybe the kids, they don't need you so much anymore. They've probably gone off to university, may have even left home. And so all of a sudden you've got all this time on your hands, but somehow you still don't feel free. So what is that with midlife and, being a midlife mum? Not quite sure how it happens, but it does. And so in order to create that freedom so that you could maybe, do the traveling and go to the far off places that you see on social media, and maybe that you've been to on family holidays, but then you were kind of tied up with the family holiday vibe. And now it's maybe you and your partner, you and your husband, and you think, well, actually, these are the years we've been waiting for. Oh my goodness, we've got all this freedom. But there's also a lot of us which somehow just don't seem to have that freedom that we thought we'd have. So my question is, how do we create that freedom? So We're in a really interesting time right now because the way we create that freedom is, well, we've got more resources available to us probably than we've ever had in the form of digital resources. You can automate stuff. I mean, just think about banking. Think how different banking is now using automated systems than it ever was. Think about, I mean, for example, now if I'm booking my car into something, certainly in England the way it is, you put in the number plate and it pulls up all the information about your car, size tyres you need, I mean, everything. It just makes life so much easier. So therefore frees up more time. So if we've got systems like that in place that we can use, in theory, we should have so much more free time and therefore we should have so much more freedom. But as I say, it just sometimes doesn't feel like that, does it? Anyway, so I'm working really hard, which sounds ridiculous because it doesn't sound like freedom, but I'm working really hard to get these structures in place because now I have this whole open opportunity to create exactly the life, the life that I choose. I mean, freedom for me is exercise. It's being able to go and meditate every day, having the time and the space to, as I say, if I want to go for a run in the middle of the day, go for a run, to travel, to be able to have the room in my life for spontaneity. But to do that, you need to have the money, you need to have the time, you need to have the freedom. And also you need to have enough capacity in your mindset to be able to make those decisions and not be bogged down by everything else in your life. So whereas you once upon a time had the restrictions with the time filled with your family life and your kids' commitments and, the sports and all the rest of it. I mean, blimey, I remember driving around to 3 different sports a number of times per week. And I think there were a couple of nights, especially when my husband was travelling, that I remember driving 100 Ks in a night in order to get kids to their various activities and back again. I mean, it was ridiculous. However, that's what added to the quality of our life. Loved it at the time. Probably didn't love that particular night because that was a rather long way to drive. Anyway, so now I can really consciously start to create this life of freedom. Put it through the filters of my coaching system. If you're looking at Expand, you can really start to look at your values. What is it that freedom means to you? Does it mean traveling? Does it mean space? Does it mean freedom of money, an old business or some old commitments? You really need to establish what freedom means to you. And once it's very clear to you what freedom means, then there are ways to start establishing more of that in your life. Now, this is also probably a really good time to just mention my 5 ways of saying guilt-free no report that you can download. That's going to be in the link in the show notes for you. Because you do have to start ruling stuff out, but that's a bit further down the line. So the expand phase is really all about just what is it that you want? Get really, really clear on that and what it could look like. I mean, how many times a year do you want to travel? Do you want to upgrade your car? Because maybe your car feels like you'd be more free if you had a convertible. I just don't know how compelling it is to have a convertible in England compared to Canada. Anyway, we'll come to that another day. So you've got the expand phase, and then you move into the explore phase. And the explore phase is when you start chipping stuff away, because you've got to say, okay, so what is it that I need to allow to fall away or cull, actually, in order to achieve my goals of freedom? So that can look like doing a detox, clearing out your house and doing a big declutter. It can look like simplifying. I mean, I know lots of people are cutting back because of finances. A lot of people are simplifying also what they're doing this Christmas, maybe doing a secret Santa rather than buying gifts for everybody. And that might come out of necessity, which is just another aspect of how much does doing things out of necessity mean to you in comparison to freedom. So, for example, if you had all the money that you knew what to do with, would you just be operating by necessity? And you possibly could be, but that would be a choice. It wouldn't be because you had to. It wouldn't be enforced upon you. So you can allow yourself to really explore what's really important to stay in your life, to be like that, to create that structure in your life, almost like the scaffolding of your life that holds everything else. And then where can you start maybe automating that to simplify that? So the essentials in your life become a lot easier to do and almost a lot easier to function with. Just prime example, I've automated a lot of my calendar bookings. So I know that I have calendar bookings in order to see clients. I've been flip-flopping on that for so long and resisting different softwares and all the rest of it. And now I made a decision. I went, that's the software, just get it done. And it's made my life so much easier because it just saves the to from. Discussing with time zones. Well, time zones, one thing, but then time bookings, one thing. So you've got to look at what systems, for example, using things like AI now. So then the third part is to energize. When you are creating Life of Freedom and therefore putting in all of the structures, oh my God, believe me when I say it is hard work. Now that I've actually given up the day job and I'm now full-time self-employed, I have never worked harder. And yet I also feel freer. So freedom to me doesn't mean not working, because I love working. I love doing what I do, but I also love having the freedom to say, you know what, there's a gym class I want to go to. I'm going to just leave the desk and run because I want to do that. So that to me is freedom. To you, it might be being able to go off to your holiday cottage or whatever. So you've got to be really clear on what freedom means to you. Anyway, going back to the energize thing, you need to have the stamina and the fitness in order to create your life of freedom, because it takes hard work. It takes thinking, it takes organizing, it takes getting out of your comfort zone, because unless you jump through those hurdles, you can't obtain what's at the other side. So structure can also be created by just its consistency, its repetition, it's doing things so they become either automated or second nature. For example, in the morning, same routine, get up, put my gym gear on or put my walking gear on, pick up my poles and walk out the door and go and do Nordic pole walk. Absolutely consistent, rarely miss it, just consistent. And that sets up my day to feel free because I've already started the day, I've got fresh air in my lungs, I've moved my body, I know I've done some exercise. So if I don't get the chance to do any more exercise that day, at least I've done something. So it kind of gives me freedom in my head, it gives me freedom in my lungs, gives me freedom in my heart. But more to the point, it reassures me that actually I'm doing exercise and that ticks off my value of freedom. Well, it touches on my value of freedom anyway. The fourth part, which I've talked about before, is having your ecosystem. So your ecosystem is really what you have around you. So this is not only the people, this is the systems. What systems do you need to have in place in order for you to have the freedom, whether it's time freedom, money freedom, location freedom? What do you need to have in place so that you can be free? So, for example, I'd mentioned the holiday cottage. Having a holiday cottage might be for you the ultimate freedom because you've got like a bolt hole. You can run, you can go any weekend you like, you don't have to plan it. So in that sense, it's freedom. But getting the holiday cottage is the work that needs to be done before the freedom comes. Does that make sense? And that can be quite hard work, you know, with the travelling down to go find out wherever it is, doing the research, making sure the finances are in order. And then, of course, you've got another property to look after as well. So for some people, they wouldn't believe that was freedom. But for others, that's the ultimate freedom. So you've got to be really clear on what it is for you. And then also, as I say, people around you. People around you can either make you feel like everything is possible. I heard this on a podcast the other day. Are you surrounded by and people or but people? And so the and people always see the opportunity and can add to it. The but people, you'll tell them an opportunity or you'll discuss an opportunity or discuss anything, and there is always a but. And when there's always a but, as you'll know if you read the 5 Guilt-Free Ways to Say No book, if there's a but, then that kind of discounts everything that you've just said in the first part of the statement. So be very careful with the buts, but also don't surround yourself with but people, because that is going to put a spanner in the works for you. And then once you've realised that you've got the right ecosystem in place and you've got the structures around you that you need and you don't have the extra fluff that you don't need, then you can actually start to evolve, which is the 5th step in the process. And the evolution is actually then you start to live the life of freedom. So I wanted to share with you that I am just working on a new project at the moment. And with that, I've started a new Instagram page, which if you wanted to come over and have a check out, it's very much an experiment right now. The Instagram page is called the Midlife Freedom Angel. It's really about the whole freedom thing. And I'm still with the midlife theme because to me, we have such a massive opportunity in front of us. And hand in hand with that goes this potential of freedom, because up till now, there's always been a laid out path for us. Yet now, there is no laid out path for us. There is no rule book that we have to follow. And we've potentially got all these years ahead of us where there's no rule book. And okay, so what are we going to create? Absolute most fantastic time to create freedom. And especially if you're not where you wanted to be by now, either financially or health-wise or relationship-wise, anything like that, now is the time to really invest in yourself to make that happen. So over at the Midlife Freedom Angel, I'm looking at some new business opportunities, and they're impacting my coaching business, they're impacting my podcasting, but they're also impacting my life and my finances. So if it's something that you're interested to find out more about, and it's not network marketing or anything like that, it is literally learning about how to implement digital strategies in so many areas of your life to create more freedom. So I am jumping into that with both feet because I'm really enjoying it. And as I say, you might be seeing how it's impacting my coaching business as well. Because the systems that I'm learning, it's some systems I've been using for many, many years, like Canva, a design system, which is how I design all of my social media, podcast, front posts, all this sort of stuff. It's working with those systems that I already have in place. For example, how I send out my emails and then how I post in the Facebook group or on my Instagram page. All of these systems have been in place, but I just haven't been tying them together in a particular way now that is possible and using them to their most efficient way. So I've almost been kind of using systems, but just with training wheels on, with stabilizers on. And so now I'm really exploring, okay, how do I make these systems even more efficient? And the funny thing is, the more efficient I get these systems to be, the more time I can spend actually focusing on my spiritual work. Which sounds funny because you're going, well, hold on, left brain, right brain. But that's actually the reality for me, is I bring, all of my work depends on the right brain and the spiritual work and being in a really good place on that side of things. But I need my left brain, obviously, to be functioning in a good way to give me the space to be able to do all of the right brain stuff. And again, the real balance is when you have the mix of the two working really well together, which obviously is something that meditation really helps us with because it builds the connections between the left and the right brain as well. And it makes you able to balance those. Anyway, so if you want to come over and have a look at Instagram, see what I'm up to, you'll see it's quite a fun new project. There is no perfection there, let me assure you of that. But if you wanted to come and take a look, please do. So the things that I think I really want to leave you with today are, especially maybe because you might be setting New Year's resolutions, you may be thinking about what you want to be different for next year, because we are in this fantastic energy of change and new starts, closure of the old, bringing in the new. And I know I talk about that all the time, but every single day is the chance for a new start. Every single moment in every single day is the chance for a new start. So what is it that you're going to do differently? If you are looking to create a life with more freedom, more time freedom, more energy freedom, more financial freedom, then it's worth looking at the structures that are currently in your life, and are they supporting you or are they weighing you down? If you realize that there's stuff around you that actually feels like baggage, and whether that's people, situations, a job, health habits, it's all of the essentials. None of this is new. And it's all quite easy to avoid, thinking, oh, well, it's not that big, it's not that bad. But they add up. They all add up. And so when you start looking, I used to have like a pyramid that I used to work with, and there were 4 sides to that. And it was basically, and you'll see it in my older social media as well, there are 4 sides to it. If you've got your time sorted, your love sorted, your finances sorted, and your health sorted, you're in a pretty good place. there's not really a lot that can faze you. It's almost like the four legs on a chair, four legs on a table. If you've got those four sorted out, you really can't go far wrong. And so where you can start gaining freedom is when you start addressing those four. The only thing is, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you address all four at once. What I wanted to leave you with today is this idea that in order to create more freedom, you actually need to look at the structures in your life. And if there's anything I can do to support you, any way I can help you with that, then obviously I'm here for that. Please comment, review, please come over to the Magical Midlife Facebook group. And yeah, you can always ask questions in there, and you can always contact me through that. So I am, under the podcast, you will find in show notes one of the new systems that I've put into place, and there are free offerings in there. You can pick up your 5 guilt-free ways of saying no book. You can pick up a beginner's guide to this work that I'm currently doing, talking about the systems that I'm now using. And also it's got a link to a recent course that I've done, a video course that I've done, which has really helped me and really kind of, switched how I think about freedom in life and creating new structures. So that's all in there for you as well. Yeah, so just click on the link and go and have a look. So there's free resources in there. There are obviously some paid appointments too. So there's free resources in there, but it's also where you'll find my paid for offerings. So I'm going to leave you with that. The next episode is going to be in the new year. I've got some really exciting guests coming up for you. One of them is Beth, who was the teacher who I did the ice bath opportunity with, which was super fun and has really helped also with my cold water swimming. So I want her to come and share all about her journey and how that's changed her life and her family life. And she was the teacher for my ice bath course that I did. And she is going to come on and talk to us about the whole theory behind the ice bath thing, because you've probably seen it, heard it. And I know it's really helped with my cold water swimming. So there are so many benefits to it. I mean, you can even just do a cold shower. But anyway, she's going to teach us about why that's so beneficial and what effects it actually has on us. Because to me, I've found it really, really enjoyable. Anyway, so that's one of the guests to look out for in the new year. There will be many others, I assure you. So I don't know if you heard the last episode as well with Joe, who is talking about losing midlife weight, but without dieting, which I do love that. And I know he's also got free resources on there. You can go and check out those. And if between now and Christmas you do have time to listen to more podcasts, you can go back and catch up on any of the episodes that I started recording at the end of this year. And then you'll all be caught up, because quite a lot's happened this year. It's been a bit chaotic. Yeah, I hope you can reflect back on your year and find what's been really beneficial, what's been really good, and then also the things that you want to change, because there's always things that we want to change. So just identify those. Do it before you go into the new year. Give yourself some time to actually consciously create your life. I mean, statistically, most people spend more time planning their funeral than they do their life, which always just completely perplexes me. So take some time out to reflect on what's happened in the last year, and then also plan what you want to create in this next year. And if freedom is a part of that, then please let me walk by your side and let me support you in that. Okay? I'm going to go and get a cup of tea now. So fantastic to see you. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas. And it's very, very close now. I think we're just 10 days away. And I will see you in the new year. Have a magical midlife Christmas. Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed the conversation, please come and leave a review. If you go to the Apple Podcasts app and scroll down to the bottom of the podcast page, and then you'll find the ratings and review section. Please invite your friends to come and listen by sharing the link. And you can join the conversation and let me know who you'd like to hear interviewed and what topics you'd like discussed over at Facebook on the Magical Midlife group. You can also find me on Instagram at Lindsay DeSwart, where the conversation will also continue. I can't wait to see you on the next episode. And once again, keep living your magical midlife.